Well, hey there, and welcome to another edition of The Teaching Lady. Tonight, I have a true story to share with you. It's part of my testimony. Now, some of you have heard my testimony, others have not. This is always a portion of the testimony that I never get to tell because, well, honestly, it is quite the story and it takes up a little bit of time. So I hope that you will stay with me so you can hear the ending of this story because you're not going to believe it. It's going to blow your mind. You know, back in 2003, as a matter of fact, the date is ingrained in my brain forever. December 31st, 2003, I had been dating a guy for almost a year, and we were headed towards marriage. And I was so excited about that. I thought, finally, I met a great guy. We're going to get engaged. We're going to get married. Life is going to be beautiful. Well, on New Year's Eve, when I thought we were going to go out and celebrate, rein in a new year, he decided to dump me. And I was devastated. And I'm thinking to myself, what just happened? I thought we were headed towards marriage. Now you're dumping me like a box of Hot Rocks? What is up with that? And admittedly, if you've ever been through a breakup, especially one that's unexpected, you're crushed. You're devastated. And part of you is angry. And I was really angry at him. And I was really angry at God because I felt like God knew I had been waiting for a long time for a good man to come along. And now he finally arrived. And now he's gone and it's God's fault that he left. Totally. That's what I was thinking in my mind. And I was so angry with God. And my pastor called me on New Year's Day. He had heard about what happened and he called to check on me. And I told him how angry I was at God about what happened. And he said, listen, Jeanette, he said, God understands your anger. He can handle it. He can take it. He understands why you're angry and why you're upset. He said, but don't stay mad at God for very long or you're going to miss out. And I'm thinking to myself, miss out? Dude, have you been paying attention? Have you not noticed that the love of my life has left? What could I possibly be missing out on? Really? That's the best you have? That's it? He's like, I'm just telling you. Don't stay mad at God for very long or you're going to miss out. Yeah, whatever, right? In my mind, at that moment, in the depth of my pain and sadness, you telling me I'm going to miss out on something? In my mind, I'm already missing out. What more could I be missing out on? But those words stuck with me. 3 to 4 months goes by. I've been spending most of my free time at my friend's house. They had 3 little girls. I had a little girl. I was spending a lot of time there because I was lonely. I was devastated over the breakup. It was horrible. And so I was spending a lot of time over there. And one day they said to me, it would be easier if you just moved into our neighborhood. And I'm like, your neighborhood? I can't afford your neighborhood. Did you forget I'm a single parent? Have you been to my little shanty? I'm in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath shanty on 2 acres, on a double lot. I'm not paying very much for a mortgage payment over there because it's all I can afford. I can't afford your neighborhood. And they're like, you really need to call a realtor and find out how much you could get for your place. Just call and ask them. I'm like, that's a crazy idea because I can't afford to live in your neighborhood. And they're like, just call. Fine, I'll call. Fine. So I call a realtor, half expecting that she's going to say, your little house, are you kidding me? You want? Yeah, just stay there, sweetheart. It's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. She tells me what I can get for my house. I'm like, excuse me? How much? This is how much you can get for your house. And if you're going to do this, you need to do it now. What? Do it now? That's how much I can get? She said, right now, the housing market is booming. And if you remember back in 2004, in Florida, the housing market was on fire. Okay? Houses going left and right. She said, if you're going to do this, now's the time to do it. Hello, I don't even have I don't even have a house in mind. I have a neighborhood. She said, well, if I were you, if you want to do this, you need to start looking. Oh, okay. Well, in the meantime, my friends call me. They said, Jeanette, you're never going to believe this. A house opened up on our street. What? a house open up on your street. I'm like, look, I get all your excitement and everything. I appreciate it. But again, I don't know that I'm going to be able to afford this. And they said, well, but didn't the realtor tell you what you get? I'm like, yes. And she told me I could clear $40,000 if the right offer came in. But it's going to depend on what that house sells for. Well, look, we're going to go down and we're going to peep through the windows and we're going to look at it and see. Because we saw that the people moved out. Like, okay, okay, you can't stop them from doing that, you know? So they go down to the house and they find a FedEx package on the front porch from the mortgage company addressed to the people that were living there, who had fallen behind on their payments and decided to just leave. And this FedEx package had been sitting there for several days unopened. So they open it and they find out who the mortgage company is. And they call me and they said, Jeanette, we got the name of the mortgage company on that house. And I'm like, what? How do you do that? And they said there was a FedEx package and it had been sitting there for days. And well, somebody's got to tell them that those people are not there anymore because they're expecting a response. So call them up and tell them and find out about the house. I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. This is crazy. But I call. Hi, Mr. Mortgage Man. I just wanted to let you know that the house at such and such street, well, you guys sent a FedEx package there and those people, they're gone. And he's like, excuse me? And I said, they're gone. They left. Your FedEx package has been sitting there for days. And, oh, by the way, in case you all are looking to sell that house, I'm looking to buy it. He said, really? I said, yes, I'd like to buy the house. Now, I'm not seeing the inside, but I'm just thinking, you know what? How bad can it be? I mean, my neighbor's house, my friend's house down the street, and her neighbor across the street, who I've gotten to know also, their houses are nice. How bad can this house be? It's got to be better than my little shanty, you know? So I'm thinking, why not? I might as well put my offer in right now. Said, so do you have an idea how much you want to sell it for? And he tells me, and he says, but ma'am, he said, we can't sell it right now because it's still in the owner's name and we have processed paperwork. It's going to be 2 weeks. So, okay. Well, I go back to my realtor and I tell her, I said, you know what? I've been thinking about it. Put my house on the market because I found a house I'm going to buy. She's like, really? I said, yeah. I said, I just have to wait for the bank to process the paperwork to get it out of the other person's name, make it theirs officially so that they can put it on the market. They say it takes 2 weeks. I figure by the time we get this part done, put it on the market, and I'll have to wait anyway, there'll be enough time. She said, okay, so we put my house on the market. Now, one thing you need to understand about my house is that it was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, sat on a double lot. I had done a lot of work to it, but there was one drawback. That was the bathroom. The one and only bathroom in the place. The ceiling was 6'2". That was it. It was like the ceiling was about here. So a tall person would have a problem standing in that bathroom. A shorter person, my height or shorter, I was 5'6". Well, 5'7". I'm 5'6" now. The older you get, you kind of go down. But shorter people would love it. It would be fine. It would get by. But if a tall person was going to come and buy it, it'd be like, oh, they're going to have to raise the roof on this bathroom. So I start praying for God to send people my height or less, or for him to send, if it's going to be a tall person that buys it, somebody who's willing to raise the roof. Because it's going to need to be raised in that section. Only that section. The rest of the ceiling throughout the place, I don't understand what happened and why this was, but the rest of the ceilings were all normal height, which is like 8 feet. So I start praying for shorter people to come. And within 3 weeks, a couple shows up with their realtor to look at my house, and I open the door and I recognize them. And I don't say anything, because I don't want to sway them either way. I don't want them to feel bad if they look at the house and they go, no, it's not what we want. And I don't want them to feel like they have to make an offer on my house if they really don't want to. So I don't say anything. And that couple was 1 inch or 2 shorter than me. And I'm like, okay, we're starting off good. I know the people that are shorter than me. Let's see what happens. They go through. The next day, they make an offer on my house. And of course, I accept it because they gave me exactly what I wanted. And they didn't require that I raise the roof on the bathroom. And I'm like, yes, awesome. So I call the bank on the other house because I'm ready now. Let's do this thing, formalize a contract, everything, whatever we got to do. And I said, you put the house on the market yet? And they said, oh yeah, it went on the market last night. I'm like, last night? Are you kidding? Why didn't you call me? And he's, well, I didn't think about it. He said, call your realtor and go out there and look at it and make us an offer. Put an offer in. Call my realtor. Look, we got to go out to that house and we got to make a formal offer on the house. It's been on the market since last night. And she's like, okay. So we go out here. We go inside. We see the house. I'm like, yes. It had little termite damage. I'm like, not a problem. I'll take care of it. So we make a formal offer. I fully expect the bank's going to call me up and they said, the house is yours, right? No. They call me up and they say, we're sorry, but we accepted another offer. Yours was one of 6 offers. 6 offers? 6 offers? You had 6 offers between last night and today? And one of them was mine? Like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, why did I start this whole process again? Like, why did I decide to do this again? Now I got to find another house because now I have a contract on my house. I've got to find another house. I can't undo my contract. So I start looking in a 30-mile radius of this neighborhood. I looked at 2 houses in the neighborhood. I gave people what they wanted, and they said no. I put contract after contract after contract, or offer after offer after offer on houses, and the people said no. I gave people more than what they asked for, and they said no. 3 weeks into this, I'm a crying mess. I'm so stressed. I can't believe that I did this to myself. I can't believe I can't get anybody to take my offers. Nobody will take my offers. I want to buy your house and they will not take my offers. They will not take them. They got better offers. Like, how much better do we have to get? I mean, the housing market was so crazy back then. People outbidding each other. If you've been a part of that, you know, you understand. You just can't find good houses, right? I'm totally getting beat on every one. The house would go on the market right then, boom, an hour later, gone. It was nuts. And I was freaking out because what have I done? I'm going to have to go to closing and I'm going to have to take that money that I get and I'm going to have to go rent an apartment because I can't find a house to buy. And then I got to deal with the time lag between closing on my place and closing on the new place. I'm going to have to go find a place to rent for a month, is what I'm thinking. And I'm devastated. I'm just like, oh, I can't even believe I did this to myself. So irresponsible. I'm crying. So I go to closing on my house. It comes. I go to closing. The people that are buying my house are there. We're sitting around the table. We're making small talk. That's when I decide to say to them, oh, hey, by the way, I know you guys. And they're like, what? And I said, well, I've been to your house. My daughter and your granddaughter play together. They met in daycare. You've dropped her off at my house before to play. And they're like, are you kidding? Oh, my goodness, we feel so bad. We didn't recognize you. And I'm like, it's okay. They're like, why didn't you tell us? I said, because I didn't want to sway you one way or the other when you came. But now that we're here and everything's going through, you know, and I just wanted you to know I'm so glad it's you all. I feel good because it's somebody I know that's buying my house. And they're like, so where are you going? Where are you moving to? And I'm like, well, that's a problem. I said, what do you mean? I said, yeah, I don't have a house to go to. When I leave here, I'm going to be trying to find an apartment. And they're like, what? I said, yeah. Every house I put a contract on, an offer on, wouldn't take it. So, you had mentioned before we closed that, there was no hurry for me to get out, and you gave me a week to 10 days, and I really appreciate that, because when I leave here, I got to go try and find an apartment, and there's no guarantee I'll find one today. So the more time I got, the better. So I appreciate you all letting me have that 10 days, because they were just buying it as an investment property. They weren't going to move into it right away. So they were allowing me to just kind of take my time to get out of there, but they wanted me out at a specific time. So we're sitting there at the closing table, and I just get done telling everybody this at the table. I mean, my realtor's sitting there. They're there with their person, the title lady, and whoever the closing people are that are there when you're doing all this paperwork and everything. And my phone rings. And, back then, 15 years ago, when your phone rings and you look at it and you're like, oh, you weren't like, oh, another robocaller like you are today. Today, you get so many robocalls, it's ridiculous. But back then, 15 years ago, if your phone rang, you'd be like, oh, somebody's calling me. I don't recognize the number, but you answered it. So and that's what happened with me. I saw the number, and I'm like, I don't really recognize this number, so I answer it. Because I don't know, maybe somebody that I put an offer in on a house the day before called to say that that deal fell through. I have no idea. So I answered the phone. And the guy on the other end, he's like, hi, is this Miss Doobie? And I'm like, yes. And he said, this is so-and-so from the mortgage company. I went, excuse me? The mortgage company? I'm like, are you talking about the mortgage company from the house that didn't I make an offer to you not too long ago? And he says, well, yes, ma'am, actually you did. He said, over a month ago. I'm like, what? He said, the house on Lane. And I'm, what? The house on Lane? What? You're calling me about the house on Lane? You guys took a better offer than mine, and I thought you would be closed on. I don't understand why you're calling me. And he said, ma'am, just called to let you know that the offer that we accepted from the other party, he said, well, that deal fell through. And I'm like, oh, okay. But you had 4 other offers besides mine. Yes, we did, and we called all of those people, and every one of them has already got a contract on a house. And they're going to closing on a house that they've already found. And I'm like, what? He said, is there any chance that you are still looking for a house? And I'm speechless at this point. I'm speechless. He's like, ma'am, are you there? I said, are you telling me that you want to sell me that house that I tried to buy more than 30 days ago? The one that's foreclosed on. And he said, yes, ma'am. And I said, but what about the contract? He said, all you got to do is change 2 things on it, resend it over to me. And he said, matter of fact, we can close on the same day you originally chose 30 days ago. I'm like, what? Are you kidding? He goes, no, ma'am. Do you want the house? Yeah. Yes. I hang up the phone, and now my realtor and everybody at the table is looking at me. And they're like, well, who is that? And I said, you are not going to believe this. And I sit back in my chair, and I'm like, I am stunned right now. I'm stunned. And they said, what happened? And I said, you are not going to believe this. That was the mortgage company from the house that I put the very first offer on more than 30 days ago. It was the house that I wanted to move into after I sold my house, and my offer wasn't accepted. And now they're telling me that the offer that they did accept fell through. The other people have houses, and they're calling to find out if I have a house. And the realtor is like, well, you did tell them you want it, right? And I'm like, yeah, I did. I told them I wanted it. She's like, are you kidding me right now? That was them? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, that was them. I have a house. Oh. And we close in 2 weeks. Oh, we close in 2 weeks. They said, do you need 2 to 3 weeks in there, in your house to get for that? And I'm like, oh, can I? Yeah, we know you. We're not worried about it. And I'm like, oh, let me tell you something. I walked out of there with a check and went to the bank and deposited in an escrow account for the house that I was getting ready to close on in 2 weeks, which was going to be Memorial Day weekend. And I had a friend who worked at the closing company that the loan was going through, and she stayed until late to close on that house so that I could move and take care of everything and get it in moving condition over that weekend. And I sit back and I say, you know, people ask me why I believe in God and why I love Jesus so much. And I point to that time. And I point to other times where I have seen God move. And that's why. Because when I think about that, I was in a little shanty house that I should never have gotten the amount of money that I got for it. The profit that I made off that house was ridiculous. It had a ceiling in the bathroom that was 6'2". People shorter than me bought it. Okay? The foreclosure that I got, that I lost, I ended up moving into 45 days later after putting in at least 30 offers on houses between the time I originally lost the foreclosure and the time that I closed on it. I had put at least 30 offers on houses in a 30-mile radius. Okay? The FedEx package that was sitting on the front porch for days, which gave me the mortgage company's name. Okay? The closing of my house that the guy would call in the middle of my closing. He didn't call the week before. He didn't call hours before the closing. He didn't call after the closing. He didn't call the week after the closing. No, he called during the closing. So that everybody at the table, including my realtor, who had been with me through all the lows of trying to find a place and all the contracts, offers that she wrote up and turned in and they were declined, the people that were buying it, the closing people that were sitting there, they all got to hear the story of what happened. God got all the glory. And then in my mind, I thought back to what Pastor said. He said, Jeanette, if you stay mad at God for very long, you're going to miss out. He had no idea what I would be missing out on. And I even said to him, what do you think I'm going to miss out on? Just what am I going to miss out on? I could have very well missed out on that house. And missed out on all that happened and all that I saw. And here's the thing, when we're going through something, when we're going through the deep waters and we're going through what feels like a test, what feels very difficult, what feels overwhelming, oftentimes we don't see God there. We can't see him because of all that's going on. But when we come out on the other side, suddenly we look back at everything and we go, he was there and there and there and there and there and there. Oh my. He saw the whole thing. All these things that happened, he was a part of. I had nothing to do with all of those things. He took something near impossible and made it happen. In my mind, it was done. I had ruined my life. I had come off of a horrible breakup. Did something so totally irresponsible by putting my perfectly good house on the market. And God turned around and did an awesome, wondrous thing that only he could get the glory for. Only he. And people ask me, why do you believe in God again? I have plenty of reasons to believe. Plenty. I could talk about the things that God has done in my life all night long. Because there are things that just blow my mind that he's done. And there's no other explanation for them but God. There's none. He showed himself. I saw his glory. And all the people that were sitting at the table, they saw it too. They saw it too. You could not come up with any other explanation as to why that happened, except for that. I tell you this for a couple of reasons. One, I know that there's a lot of people that are angry right now. There's a lot of people angry at God for things that have happened in their life, for things that are not happening in their life. There's a lot of people that are just angry. And to me, in my little minute mind, I'm looking at that going, you know, I know how that felt. I've been there and I've done that. I have felt that intense anger. But I also know that when I was feeling that intense anger, there was no room for joy. There was no room for peace. There was no room for happiness because my only focus was on being angry. And my only focus was on keeping that anger alive. Because if I let go of that anger and I quit being angry, well, now who am I? Well, I'm going to feel sorry for myself now. It's like that anger cannot reside with joy and happiness and peace. It has a very hard time. It's like oil and water. They don't go together. They usually stay. Two magnets don't like to stay together, don't like to join usually. They usually oppose each other. Anger, joy, they usually oppose each other. It's hard for them to occupy the same space in our hearts. You know, our heart gets hearts. Our heart, we have one heart. When anger and joy, when anger's there, it's hard for joy to be found in our heart. It's hard for happiness. It's hard for peace and gentleness and kindness and self-control and meekness. And it's hard for those things to be found in a heart that's full of anger. And you find that the anger just takes over and it monopolizes everything and it just overshadows everything and it just gives it a very weighty, heavy feel. And when I was struggling with that anger and being so angry at God, you know, what the pastor said to me at that time, so true. I would have missed out. Now, in the moment, I didn't know what I would be missing out on. And had I stayed angry at God, very well could have missed out on that house and everything that happened after that. I mean, the things that have happened after that, they blow my mind too. And I can sit here and tell you all of those as well. And I'll tell them as we go along someday. But had I stayed angry at God, I would have missed out for sure. So my encouragement to you is if you are walking around with a ton of anger inside, to let it go. Let it go, because I don't know how you're finding it possible to live peacefully, to live joyfully, to live happily. And I don't know about you, but I'm just thinking all that anger is not worth it. It's not worth it. I was angry for a little while and then I let it go. And let me tell you something. When you let that go, it's like this huge weight's lifted off of your shoulders, because you find out that, or at least I did, to stay angry, you gotta stay angry. It's like a purposeful emotion that you always have to keep stoked. And if you don't keep it stoked, you don't keep that fire burning on that anger, there's a chance that it's going to go away and go out. And then you're going to be like, whoa, wait a minute, why did I let that go out? I need to stay angry at that person. I'm not going to let them off the hook. Let them off the hook. Let God be the judge. Let God take care of it. Let them off the hook. Especially when you can't control it. When you can't control them. You can't control their decisions. You can't control what happened. I could no more control what my boyfriend did on New Year's Eve, okay, than I could control the sun going up and down. I couldn't. I could not control his decision. He made the decision. And he had to live with the decision that he made because it didn't go as he planned. But he made the decision, and I could not change his mind. I could not control him. I could not tell him. I tried to tell him, you're making a big mistake. There are things in our lives that happen and we get angry about and we cannot control. And to hold on to that anger, especially at God, is not going to get you anywhere. You're going to live a miserable life. And the question is, how long do you want to live that miserable life? That would be the question. How long do you want to live that way? Because as you're living that way, time's going by, and you're losing time to be able to live peacefully, joyfully, happy, content. So something to think about. My house story. It's amazing what God can do. If you are worried that God doesn't see you and doesn't know what's going on, don't worry. He sees you. He knows what's going on. And he's working behind the scenes. And one day, you'll be able to look back and go, he was there and I didn't even see him. Well, thanks for joining me. And I hope this story has been of some encouragement to you. I certainly love it. Just thinking back on that time, it just warms my heart. You take care now, Teaching Lady. Check out, if you get a chance, subscribe to my page on The Teaching Lady on YouTube, or I have a website called The Teaching Lady. Check it out, theteachinglady.net. Check it out. There's lots of devotionals and resources and things to help you in your walk with Christ. You know, I always tell people, after everything that God has done in my life, the least I can do is tell other people about what he's done. So, and I love that. It brings me such joy. So, you take care. God bless you, and you have a good day. Bye-bye.